Welcome, everyone. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and I'm really excited to be here with you for this 90-minute program that's part of a series with Barbara Marx Hubbard. It's called Becoming the New Human. 3 keys to accessing your universal self and accelerating your evolution. This is the 3rd free online event in the series. The theme of this event is activating synergy, using co-creation to accelerate evolution in yourself and in others. Thanks so much for joining us here today. We've got a really powerful program in store for you. As we get started, I'm going to give Barbara a proper introduction. Barbara Marx Hubbard is a futurist, speaker, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author who has been called the voice for conscious evolution of our time by Deepak Chopra, and is the subject of Neil Donald Walsh's book, The Mother of Invention. A prolific writer, visionary, social innovator, evolutionary thinker, and educator. She is co-founder and president of the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. Her own books include Conscious Evolution, Awakening the Power of Your Social Potential, Emergence, The Shift from Ego to Essence, and The Evolutionary Journey. Before we get started, I want to let you know that near the end of this webinar, we're going to tell you about an exciting new 8-week master's program that we've just created with Barbara. It's based on the groundbreaking work that Barbara is doing in the world. Also, Barbara and I are going to be coming to this program live in about 60 minutes, so please be sure to write down your questions and comments. More on this in just a bit. Right now, let's jump into this program with Barbara and get to the exciting and very relevant topics that we've planned for you here during the hour. Barbara, let's jump in here with some of these really juicy questions that are, of course, right before the elections here, midterm elections in the United States, and that are during this really, I'll call it a auspicious time out in the world. So the first question that I want to get to is how do you use a simple but powerful experiment to prove the power of synergy is already at work in your life?
Well, the first thing I did, Steve, was look at how nature has been doing it for billions of years. There's a knowledge in here, and here's what it is. When nature hits a crisis, like from the let's say running out of energy in the time of the single cells, or very much in the past, what happens is when separate parts are failing, nature has a tendency to connect those separate parts, like cells joined together to create multi-cells, and they could bring in solar energy, and they transform the world. And if you look up the spiral from single cell to multi-cell to animal to human, every time there was a crisis, there was a joining together of separate parts to make a new whole greater than and different than the sum of the parts. So when did I ever experience this, you ask me, and how? I'll just tell you briefly what happened. I decided in 1984 to have my name placed in nomination for Vice President of the United States on the Democratic ticket. And I did that because I wanted to bring the ideas of social synergy into politics. So my friend Carolyn Anderson and I headed out, and I wrote to my friends and said, please give a party for me and raise money for me, because I want to place the idea of an office for the future to map, track, connect, and communicate what works in the world in the vice presidency. Now, everybody said this is ridiculous, this is impossible, but nonetheless, I visited them. And then when I said it, you know what? They wanted to try social synergy in their communities. Now, social synergy is bringing people together in such a way that everyone gets more. It's more than cooperation. You see, if you see my hands here, here's cooperation, here's synergy. And synergy, when people join like this, they become enormously creative. So just to finish this story, when I got to the Democratic National Convention, I had 90 positive future centers doing social synergy themselves, connecting their own communities up to see more of what they wanted to create. So when I walked in there, I had no money, no media, and no passes to the floor. And I was the other woman nominated. I believe that the 90 positive future centers, all doing social synergy, empowered me in the greater realm of creativity to so persuade the delegates, 200 delegates at the Democratic National Convention, to place my name in nomination along with Geraldine Ferraro, because I said, I want to tell from the Democratic platform the greatness that we could be if we connect people for co-creation throughout the world by finding out and connecting what's working. When I received the other nomination, I thought, I will never again believe in failure, because actually this was impossible by normal standards. So in my own life and in the life of the people and friends that I have, well, just take you and me, Steve. We've known each other for a while, but then when we decided to work together, there was a social synergy here where I became more because of my relationships with you, and your humanities team became more because of your relationship with me. And I would say that everybody who has any purpose in life, in order to achieve that purpose, find out who else is excited by what you're saying because they want to do it. And practice sharing resources, matching needs with resources, and see what happens as you start exploding into greater effectiveness.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for taking this. As you point out, nature really is our example, but then also just awareness, as you were talking about, just synergy that has been surfacing throughout your life and every day, but during these important moments. So beautiful, Barbara. Okay, Barbara, let's jump in here to the next question here for you. How do we more effectively harness the power of yearning in your own heart to make a greater contribution to improving the world?
The power of yearning in your own heart is the power of the impulse of evolution inside you as you. Now, that's a big thought. If you imagine that we started with the Big Bang, and then quarks and electrons and protons and all the way on up for 13.7 billion years, nature has found the way to connect separate parts to make a greater whole. So when you and I are wanting to make that happen, what we want to make happen is really the yearning in our hearts of the greater process of creation, or the divine intent, or God in action, whatever word you want for how we got from the Big Bang to the present. Now, because we live in a time of great possible danger or possible breakthrough, it's ever more important for every one of us to connect that which is creative in our lives and say yes to the impulse that, and feel the empowerment of the larger process of creation inside you. Like when I have an impulse to help create greater synergy in the world, let's say that, I don't feel I'm just yearning for this all by myself. Here I am sitting alone, yearning to bring impulse of creativity and synergy into the world. That makes me feel too ineffective. But if I know that my deepest impulse is coming from the larger process of creation, and I'm saying yes to something much greater than me, but then it becomes me saying yes, and suddenly I'm effective. And then what I do with my yearning is say, thank you, God, for the impulse to be more, to love more, and to create more. Thank you, universe, for offering me the opportunity to evolve. Thank you, universe, because you are filling me with the joy and anticipation of creativity with others.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Align with the divine and the big vision.
Yes.
It all comes in to support you.
And you say, thank you, God.
Including the thank you process. I love it, Barbara. Boy, that's certainly what I endeavor to do too. Thank you for that. Okay, the next one then is, how do we easily find kindred spirits who are ready to make the same kinds of exciting leaps on the path of realizing your full capacities as humans and to become more and better than you are now?
To find kindred spirits, you've got to learn how to express your heart's desire in public. You need to be able, instead of say, how are you? Fine, thank you. If somebody says, how are you? Sometimes I say, would you really like to know? And if they say yes, I'll say something about I'm excited about and I'm wondering how you are. In other words, you have to start a deeper conversation. And once you tell them that something inside of you is exciting you to be more and do more, and you ask them, do they have such a feeling about anything? And if you find one whose feeling is related to your yearning, then you're hitting co-creation. And this is a very big thought here, but nature invented procreation to get us to reproduce the species up to maximum. And we have. We've done a great, great job. So now mainly it's chosen children or no children at all. So over here, the yearning for procreation is turning into the yearning for co-creation, for partnership, for joining genius, for the allure of attraction to others who, when you are with them, you get to be more of who you are and more who they are. So from procreation to co-creation is really about the evolution of the person. You know, I've had 5 children. So when you I got married at 21 and had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how much time did I have for bringing forth my own personal life purpose? None. But however, when the children were just a little bit grown and I got depressed, and that depression led me to Maslow, and Abraham Maslow said, all self-actualizing people have one thing in common. Chosen work you find intrinsically self-rewarding and of service. So the chosen work is that inner impulse that's uniquely you, that you could say is the divine intent within you. And when you say yes to that, you've got to share it with others because you can't do it alone. And the beauty of this, Steve, is when you find others whose desire to co-create is comparable and matches your own, you begin to create new relationships, new friendships, deeper often than any you've ever had before, because the new friendships are joined to co-create. So the other person is becoming more of who he or she is, while you are becoming more, and you fall into evolutionary love. Now, evolutionary love is a really nice word for what this feels like. Evolutionary love is the core of the spiral of evolution, from single cell to multi-cell, to animal to human. It's the attractor at the core of evolution that attracts particles together to make greater wholes. So when you say yes, you are attracting inside yourself this allurement, this attraction, which we're calling evolutionary love. And then you fall in evolutionary love with people. Like I could say, Steve, I'm in evolutionary love with you. How is that?
Back at you.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Evolutionary love is for co-creating in the world. As you might say, the personal love and joining genes to have the baby is in order to reproduce the species. This falling in evolutionary love is in order to co-create and co-evolve yourself as part of your humanity, which has to evolve in order to survive. This is another thing. You know, they used to have all these babies because people could survive only with all their children to help them. I believe what's true right now, we can only survive if we can join to co-create. And if we can feel the impulse of evolutionary love awakening within our hearts. And when, of course, evolutionary love turns on to co-create with somebody, you actually feel joy, you feel awakened, you feel full of life, you actually feel that if you have any kind of stress in your body, it's being healed. And if you happen to be really old like me at 88, you feel new. So if there's anybody as old as I am listening to this and you say yes to your life purpose and join with others to co-create, you are going to get newer every day, just like me.
Yes, they will. Oh boy, Barbara, you sure covered a lot there. And as you were talking, was just thinking, maybe we're at that Maslow moment for all of the species here. Where you said, that our chosen work is intrinsically self-rewarding and of service, and so you were led down a path which was a very challenging path because you had 5 beautiful kids and a husband, but you realized that this is really what you were being called to. And do you sense that this is what we're being called to together here now?
Yes, I think everybody who is not in dire physical stress or in the midst of a war or something terrible, anyone who has any degree of freedom of thought and action and communication really is yearning to discover and express deeper life purpose. And that really is the life force inside of you. And what we were talking about, evolutionary love, is when that life force of your life purpose turns on and you are filled with evolutionary love in order to fulfill. It's very much like you are when you're filled with love when you're having a child. And even when you're pregnant with the child, you're filled with love for the unknown child. Particularly women who have this possibility in their bodies. When we fall in love with the deep life purpose, we're falling in love with the unknown world. We're falling in love even with the unknown person that we're becoming, because the person that we're becoming can only fulfill itself by us saying yes to our deeper life purpose. It's really true.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the other thing, Barbara, that you said there, where you talked about this move from procreation to co-creation, where we're joining genius so that we become more of who we are. Isn't that a significant dimension of this as well? And as you look out on the world and you watch this unfolding of evolution, isn't this what you see?
Well, it is. And I have noticed how evolution puts joy and pleasure in the direction that it would like life to go, if you can say that. So nature made joining together to procreate pleasurable. Why? Nature wanted lots of people. Now, nature does not need massive reproduction anymore. One more doubling of the population would destroy life on Earth. Therefore, nature is putting pleasure into co-creation. Nature is making it so exciting to find, through evolutionary love, partners to co-create. It's a new love story here. And particularly women over 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and not dying. What is happening within these women? You know what it is? We're falling in love with our own deeper life purpose. And when we say yes to it, we're giving birth to that purpose, like to the greater self that we potentially are. Now, I'm just saying this for women over 50, as well as younger women, is that we used to think after 50 we were losing our beauty and we were losing our life purpose, and people got depressed and often just faded out of their bigger life. Now that's not true at all. I mean, women over 50 are really just getting started because I actually think the body which produces eggs all the time, every month to produce a child, which is an amazing thing that the body does. When the body stops producing those eggs post-menopause, the woman is the egg. She is the being that when she gets turned on to her creativity, she begins to give birth to that uniqueness that she is. And I think the rise of the feminine co-creator, at whatever age it is the rise of that evolutionary impulse in us, hoping to give that love, which is in the feminine ability to unconditional love of the unknown child. In a way, we can have unconditional love of the unknown world. And when we look out and we see it's a mess, and we hear this really shocking news from the people who are studying climate change, that if we don't change very fast, life on Earth will be extinct. Now, what is that signal? It's a signal of exactly all that we're teaching here. We have to awaken our uniqueness. We need to join synergistically to create. We need to express life purpose. So we're offering a call for the evolution of humanity. It's really it.
Yes, we are. And it begins with ourselves, which is what this whole hour is all about. Beautiful, Barbara.
It begins with ourselves, but then ourselves as members of humanity are joining with everybody else feeling that.
Absolutely.
And they're enough. You know what, Steve? I think they're enough on Earth to make the difference.
Yes, there are. And also it's the self with a capital S, isn't it? I mean, because
yes.
We're seeing, our self is redefined. It's not just a body that's disconnected from life. No, everything
that's
is
right. The self is part of the universal process of creation, the God self internalized as you.
Yes. So I love that you're bringing in this whole context of what the divine and evolution are calling us to this now. I love that context that you're bringing in, Barbara. So that's a good segue into the next question that I want to bring to you is how do we tune into where you feel the strongest attraction so you can go there and join genius with others who will inspire you to greater heights as you do the same for them?
Well, I call it the compass of joy and the compass of stress. And this is like an inner signal. If you're going in a direction that is causing more and more stress as you try to make something happen, just pause and reconnect with your inner life purpose. And then when you're going in a direction that gives you pleasure and joy, like working with you on all of these projects, Steve, it's very rewarding internally to me. So the compass of joy turns on, and it's the signal. Do more of that. Go that way. Follow the joy. Follow the pleasure. And as nature has really put signals in us, where do we get the greatest pleasure? Sustainable, creative pleasure. And it's really nice to consider that it's not just that things have to be hard and you need to get them done. You need to find the direction through your compass of joy where your life becomes fruitful and energized by the creativity, by the feeling of your potential being realized, by the joy of synergistic connection with others. And then your life becomes radiant by this yes to life purpose and how you actually can join with others to do it, because nobody can do it alone. Nobody
can do it alone. And it's so beautiful that this whole co-creative synergy is happening now, almost, as you mentioned, almost like divine breadcrumbs that are put down. All we need to do is just feel into it and say yes. And nature, the divine universe, are leading us straight into this co-creative process.
Exactly.
Well, beautiful, Barbara. Thank you for that. And I want to go now to some things that connect to this. First, we've brought in the challenging moment that we live in now. and the seriousness of this time. And one of the things that ways that you frame this is that we're at this choice point between devolution, where we spiral down, and evolution, where we spiral up. That we're all being called to play a role so that we spiral up and this whole existential crisis thing is healed. But it's a very serious moment where we're all being called to come down on the field and play a role. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. When I read recently the Rolling Stone article on climate change, and this writer was very, very powerful by saying we're just not doing enough. And the political elite of the world are not willing to demand this of the people of the world, and that we're going down. And I'm sitting early in the morning reading this, and then what do I do about the fact that we may be going down to extinction? Because it's so much bigger than what you could think any one of us could do. But what did I do? I got aroused. And I thought, well, what I can do is connect everybody and every initiative that is leading toward healing the earth and freeing people and exploring the regions of inner and outer space. I can do that. And I can trust that whatever in nature got us from the Big Bang to you and me having this conversation is still operative. Would it be that the impulse of nature, of God, of creativity, of the self-organizing universe, as they call it now, would turn off with you and me and leave us totally stranded? I don't think so. But I do know, Steve, there have been 5 mass extinctions before we got here. And they say we're standing at the threshold of the 6th mass extinction. The only difference is we're the first species to know it. The other species were wiped out, and it is interesting, nature always goes to higher intelligence, higher organization, higher synergy, from single cell to multi-cell to animal to human to us. Nature has a purpose. And here's a big thought. Nature does not preserve species. Nature preserves purpose. And as Teilhard de Chardin pointed out, if you look at the big sweep of evolution, the purpose is greater consciousness, more freedom of the individual, and more loving and complex order. Think of the difference between a single cell and the consciousness of us. Now, what's great about this thought is I asked myself, and I'll ask everybody, do you feel a need for greater consciousness in your life? Do you feel the need for unique self-freedom to express who you are? And do you feel the need for greater love and complexity and connectivity with others in your life? If you say yes to consciousness, freedom, and loving order, it means you've got the evolutionary impulse inside you. You are evolution in person when you desire this. And if nature, God, self-organizing universe could have gotten us from nothing at all to you and me having this conversation on internet, which is totally a stunning, amazing, godlike capability, that there's no reason to assume it stops here with all of us. Hey, it's finished now, folks. So, see, this is a very interesting form of faith. There are people who say, I just have faith in God. Yes, that is a way of saying it. But I have faith in God, in evolution, in us, as that evolving. I'm incorporating the impulse of evolution as our own creative love. I'm bringing God inside in an evolutionary way. So when I feel like I wake up in the morning and I read the Rolling Stones and I hear we're going extinct, I tune in to that impulse of evolution for the multi-billion years and the 5 mass extinctions. I know it's not inevitable. See, it's not inevitable. It depends on you and me. So I'm saying, okay, God, I am saying the biggest yes I'm capable of. And the biggest yes I'm capable of is communicating these opportunities and connecting those who feel that this is what they want to do. Now, that's a great big yes. So I say everybody has within them the capacity to say yes to their own desire for greater consciousness, more freedom of action, and more loving order. And when you say yes to that inside you, you are activating the impulse of creation as you. You become an embodiment of the creative intention of universal evolution. Now, when that happens, it's like in the past, the great mystical teachers and the yogis embodied this creativity and taught people. But all of them said, now you do this. You incarnate the impulse of creation. That's the teaching of the great mystics of the world, is that we are it ourselves. And we are. And I can say, Steve, that once I was able to say yes to that greater consciousness, freedom, and loving order as my own inner purpose, I became an evolutionary woman. I got over my depression. I was able to share with my 5 children and 6 grandchildren now and many great-grandchildren that they have within them this tremendous power of creation, and I call it vocational arousal. My entire family is vocationally aroused. When we have a family reunion, some families talk about various things that they love to do. My family is talking about their vocations, and they're all different. They're from preserving the salmon to creating a lunar landing for Jeff Bezos to doing this, that, the other. They're all different, but they're all the same in the sense of having said yes to life purpose. So I will say, for parents as well as for single people, your own yes affects your children so deeply if they can see it in you and you include them in it. You take them with you. You don't just leave them, but you take them with you so they begin to feel inside themselves their own unique impulse. And that's happened with all my 5 children and all my grandchildren. And sometimes I was afraid I wasn't a good mother because I became so passionate about my own work. But I took them with me. And now they're equally passionate about their own lives.
Yes, they are. Well, boy, Barbara, thank you for that. Wow, I just want to underscore here an important point that you're making, which is that in our belief, Rolling Stone magazine they're wise to be calling attention to this existential crisis that they say is past a tipping point, and now we're in a devolutionary spiral. But our response to that is no, that's incorrect. That is not what is happening. That just like you and your family and humanities team and all of us all over the world, that we are stepping into the middle of the circle. We are saying yes to evolution, yes to the role that we'll play, yes to our larger self. And that's why we're doing this program, candidly, is just to talk about what this invitation is that's being extended to all of us. It's so very important to ourselves, our families, and the world.
Steve, I'm doing on humanities team this course called Awaken the New Species. And it's been a wonderful experience for me. And last night, people were telling me on the chat what they were experiencing. And I said, you know what? I think you're becoming new humans, because they're all having these higher dimensions of experiences because they're in the field that is being created by those classes, because we're together. And I said, I'd like every one of you to write to me, what does it feel like to be a new human for you? And I'm going to put them all together out of our course and feed them back to you so that we see we are self-evolving through this form of oneness and communication. And I would like, by Global Oneness Day, to be able to feel some authority about the new humans we are becoming. And that what we're becoming one with in Global Oneness Day is not what we have been our entire lives in the past, but in that impulse of creativity that comes from the one source, evolving each one of us uniquely. It's a beautiful thought.
Yes, it is. And you did a great job during your panel on Global Oneness Day, and I want to thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to come back to synergy because it's so crucial. And as you know, one of the things that you do so beautifully is you go beyond beyond collaboration to real synergy as you work with people, organizations, and this also is something very key in what we're going to be announcing here in just a moment. But do you want to just say a word about how you work with people in the synergistic way that sees the best in them and calls them to their fullest potential, and with your syncons, how you just kind of bring the whole room together in this synergistic way?
I'd like to just tell you how this happened and what it was like, what it can be like. I read an article in the New York Times about Ilya Prigogine, who won a Nobel Prize for his study of dissipative structures. That inquiry that he made was, how does nature get from disorder to higher order for billions of years? What is the process as the system becomes disordered and failing that something new emerges? And so what he discovered, when a system is like our own big system in disorder, with all the climate change problems and hunger and seas rising and just a frightening set of possibilities. What happens is, in the past, but right now too, innovations start emerging in every field, in health, education, economics, science, and technology. First, they look weak, and gradually, the tendency in nature is to have a nonlinear, exponential, rapid, nonlinear, exponential interaction of innovations that work. And the system cooperates in its own self-transcendence. As, let's say, multicellular organisms are much more complex than single cells, and animals than these cells, and humans, and now with human civilization, we have a global planetary society. Communication systems are linked, production is linked, defense systems are linked. And so what we did is then, why not create a social process that takes this into account? So we developed the SynCon, and the SynCon takes place in a wheel, and it has every sector: health, education, economics, science, and technology. And people are invited to come in. First, they go to the heart of the hub of the wheel, the center of the wheel, and they have to ask themselves, what is my deepest heart's desire? Why am I here on this earth? And then they go into the sector of the wheel where they want to create. Let's say it's in health or in government or in environment. And they join with others and they ask 3 questions. What do you want to create? What do you need to create it that you don't yet have? And what do you want to share freely? Each group in each sector creates that information, and then they share it within the whole, and people get together to join resources and match needs with resources. And instead of win-lose voting, people are actually joining together to create more of what each person wants. So it's not how I can give up what I want in order to co-create and cooperate. It's how can I join in order to succeed more in my heart's desire through joining with another who needs my need as I need theirs. And I tell you, it works. And my current, I'm working with a young man who is founding a new political party called One Nation. His name is Christopher Leith. And I was just talking to him last night about my campaign and all the ways I've created social synergy in form. And he has basically said, you know what I'd like you to do, Barbara, is just speak everywhere about this, because we would like to launch a presidential campaign by 2020 whose basis is social synergy, bringing separate parts to make a new whole. And I said to him, Christopher, I say to everybody, don't die. If you live long enough, you might live to see what looked almost impossible. And what he feels is that because, in fact, other things are failing, that failure is the driver for people to be searching for a better way. And I am very excited about this. I know it's the truth in our personal lives. A failure that you might be achieving or feeling is a driver to find a better way. And so instead of just getting defeated, you have to say, thank you. Problems are evolutionary drivers.
Yes, they are.
And so we can be imagining, I mean, every single person listening to this, what problem do you have? And is it an evolutionary driver toward something more? If you can find that, all you need to do is say yes.
Yes, absolutely. Let's straight into it. Our crisis is a birth. So, Barbara, thank you for that. Well, let me just, our theme here today, of course, is activating synergy. And it's such a big topic. You're bringing in how your syncons are informing many important programs, people, processes all over the world. As you know, in Mexico, you mentioned this one with Christopher Life. It's informing.
Yes.
Syncon. It's informing many, many important works at this point.
The one in Mexico, they are going to be proposing to the new president of Mexico that he use the syncon process to bring local citizens and government and business together. Now, if that happens in Mexico, it will replicate.
Yes, and I just want to say again, we're gonna segue here now to this new program that we've created together. We've spent months working on it, but which brings in activating synergy. Of course, is a huge part of what this program is. But I just want to say the syncon process has got its tentacles out in the world and is creating substantial change. So what is happening in Mexico is but one example. And that's what I love, Barbara, what we love in Humanities Team about working with you. We're not just people sitting in some academic setting talking, about clouds in the sky and stuff. These are programs that are reaching out around the world that are creating change, massive change. Mm-hmm. All of the kinds of things that we're talking about, they're not just academic things at all. So let's just segue over though to all of these. This is our third webinar in the series. We talked about becoming new. We're talking here today about activating synergy. There are many. There's so many things that we could talk about, and we've put a little bit of discussion into 3 webinars. But we want to also extend an invitation here to go deeper into all of this, and let's extend that invitation. But by talking about this all new 8-week master's program that we've created together, Barbara, and that brings in activating synergy, of course, is a huge component. But there's so many other features inside of this as well. The name of this program is called Deep Self-Evolution. Okay, and a great deal of thought was put into what do we name this all-new 8-week master's program that's come out of this groundbreaking work that Barbara's doing, and Deep Self-Evolution is the name of it. And the thing I want to emphasize here, Barbara, I want to ask you about is that, of course, when we were spending a couple of months feeling into this, that as your life is unfolding, what are the key things that are happening here? And the thing that you kept coming back to as we were having these conversations is that I've come to the other side. and you don't say it in an egotistical way at all, but you're just saying, I am on the other side. That's what's been unfolding in my life. And what I'd like to do is kind of lay down, if there, we could call it a Grand Canyon that sits between where most of us are and the other side. Well, we need a ladder, or a bridge or something to get from here to the other side. And that was your inspiration for this program, wasn't it? To be a Sherpa, a guide, to help people across a bridge to get to the other side, as we talk about now, deep self-evolution.
Yes, it definitely is. If you think of, actually, our species is at a critical shift point where we've been told that we could go very quickly in our lifetime to a devolutionary cycle. We haven't been fully told that that's exactly the signal that we could go through a rapid evolutionary cycle toward greater consciousness, more freedom, more loving order in the direction of evolution. So the important thing right there is, if you've been saying yes to your unique life purpose, that yes actualizes within yourself a confidence that you are responding rather than being defeated by the situation, and that after enough yeses, you will suddenly wake up and find you're on the other side of the shift, because internally you have confidence in yourself that your yes can hold no matter what the situation is, that your willingness to express what you are and what you choose to be will not, there's nothing that will stop you from saying yes. And that doesn't mean you will have necessarily this success or that success, but the big success is your yes, because the yes activates the inner impulse. So in deep self-evolution, I want to work with people who would like to get in touch with that tremendous inner current of life pulse that comes out as you're yearning to be more, love more, and create more. That's the self-organizing universe. And the whole subject that we're going to have is deepening our ability to self-evolve and to discover the depth of that impulse of creativity as you. So this is not a usual, it's not just a purely mystical teaching where you become one with God. It is an evolutionary mystical teaching where you become one with God's impulse of creation as you. And the deep self is, I would say, from the depression and the lostness that I felt before this, and the discovery through Teilhard de Chardin and Sri Aurobindo and Buckminster Fuller, they were my great teachers, I discovered that the impulse and I are one. And the simplest phrase for this is, I am evolution. You are evolution. What else could you be?
Absolutely. So we're going to say yes. Yes to walking down this path together. Let's. I'm going to share screen so that we can look at this program together. This is going to be a very brief review here that Barbara and I are going to do now as we look at this deep self-evolution program. We're going to send you links here right after this broadcast so that you can come back to this page. And Barbara and I invite you to come back to the page to read this carefully. There's so much here. It's a treasure chest, really, of information about this brand new 8-week program that Barbara's created that'll launch here shortly. It's called Deep Self-Evolution, Awaken Your Hidden Power to Fulfill Your Highest Destiny and Accelerate the Evolution of Humanity. That's what this program is about. I'm going to just skim this, but I'm going to read this first opening paragraph because it's kind of important. Humanity is on the leading edge of conscious evolution, and that edge is being continually redefined by a relatively small number of pioneers who are exploring and pushing the boundaries of what is possible every single day. This is your chance to be one of those pioneers and leap into a life of unlimited power and possibility, fully experiencing your life as you evolve more rapidly toward the new human we are destined to become. So I'm going to just now scroll this and again invite you to come back and read this program page carefully that describes this new 8-week master's program that Humanities team and Barbara have created. And I'll just read the first couple of items here that speak to the deliverable that comes from the program. So, becoming a unique embodiment of the evolutionary impulse, communicating directly with the universe, accessing your deepest heart's desire, and expanding your genius and creativity through finding other kindred spirits. So those are just some of the things that are a part of this 8-week program. There's a personal note here from Barbara. Barbara, I don't want to read this, but I would love to ask you at this point, what would you like to share personally about this program that you've made a huge investment in?
That I am really anticipating it with joy. I'm eager to see who else wants deep self-evolution. I'm eager to create a deeper community of self-evolution and self-evolutionaries, because 8 weeks is a launch pad. It's not everything. And because we have many ongoing activities that people are engaging in different ways, from the social to the political to the scientific, we feel that this is a launching pad for people to deepen that inner attunement to the self-organizing universe as you, and to then share it in the world and stay connected with one another, so that we are forming resonant cores within the world. That's what we have to be doing. So this particular 8-week course is a launch pad for that next stage of evolution, not only in the people in the course, but in those that they're touching in their lives, and possibly far beyond that in the larger world.
Yes, and these things that we've talked about during these 3 free online events, becoming new, activating omni-love, and activating synergy. These are 3 of many actually components that are part of this program. So let's scroll it so we can get into this a little deeper. During the 8 weeks, these are the topics here. The first week, tapping into the power of the primal evolutionary impulse, uncovering and developing your hidden skills for living life as the evolving universe, discovering your ever-growing deepest heart's desire, deeply engaging in the process of accelerating your own evolution, finding your evolutionary partners and engaging in transformative co-creation, raising your vibration and step into your universal self, become part of the leading edge of evolution, and then celebrating the victory of becoming the new human. And Barbara, there's this beautiful picture here on the screen.
Yeah.
This is when we're on the other side, a beautiful picture. This is, the program is live. Barbara will be spending the first 60 minutes really going into quite a bit of depth on these topics. And then during the last half hour, you'll be on a Zoom screen with her so that she's talking to you and you're talking to her. So it's a live interaction during the final 30 minutes of the program. So this weekly live group mentoring is a key feature here. Barbara, that's a beautiful picture of you. I love it.
Yes, that's the way you feel when you say yes.
Yeah, well, you might even just, this is something you always come back to with me, how it feels when you say yes, and you talk about so many things. I'm not going to bring all these quotes here to you, but what does that feel like when you say yes? What's it feel like being on the other side, waking up into this?
Well, I would say that the inner impulse that's in every one of us, like the guiding force of the inner life, turns on when I say yes, and it radiates inside me. And the radiance of that inner impulse with the yes, then of course makes you radiant. and the way you get to be attractive is by being attracted. So if you're attracted by this inner impulse to be who you fully are and you're sharing it with others, you become so attractive that you start attracting a lot of people to you. And then you really have to watch out for suprasexual promiscuity, because you might find yourself saying yes to everything. Oh, would you like to write a book with me? Oh, yes, I would. Would you like to take a trip to the former Soviet Union and go to a conference? Oh, why not? And then suddenly you find you're not going to be able to do any of those things. Because when you get turned on, Stephen, this is an important point. You do identify the things that are most important to you. And your yes has integrity, it has consistency, it has fidelity, many of the same virtues that you would have in a personal love affair, you have in a love affair with what you're co-creating with others. And you need to be a steady force with that. And you need to choose what is it out of the many possibilities. And when you say yes, choose it. If it doesn't work, that's okay to change it, but change it very carefully. Because you don't want to disarrange the people who have gained confidence in you. And so there's an ethics of evolution, or conscious evolution. And I'll just say a word about the phrase conscious evolution, which I was inspired by, and I believe it has pretty much become a worldview, which is a big deal. Because when I got started, there was no idea that evolution could become conscious in us. We didn't even think that way. And as I began to understand it through the great teachers and my personal experience, I became an advocate of conscious evolution as a shift point on planet Earth, where we access the power of evolution itself beyond us and within us. And the yes that we're saying is yes to the tendency of evolution itself for more life, more love, more creativity. So you bring the power. You might as well say it's the power of life itself turning on as you.
Yeah, beautiful, Barbara. Love it. There are many quotable quotes here.
The power of
We'll
life.
link to this webinar so you can watch it again if you like. There's so many things that Barbara's covered that are so very important. I want to mention again, we're going to hear in just about 10 minutes be coming on screen here live to answer your questions. So be sure to write your questions down so you can bring them to Barbara and me. I also want to share, it's no accident that this program is happening right after Global Oneness Day. As Ken Wilber likes to share, there's a process here for evolution to really manifest, and it starts with awareness. And Global Oneness Day creates incredible awareness about our oneness with the divine, each other, and all of life. But then creating the skills to embody oneness are so crucial. And this is why this program has landed right here. These free online events and this new 8-week master's program have landed right behind Global Oneness Day, as this is bringing in the aspect of the skills so that we can embody the skills to really live as one and create the world that we want. This whole, and the devolution is the path that we're going down. No, we're not going to go down that path. We have children. There's a next generation. We have our own lives. It's going to be, evolution is what we're being called to, but we all do need to step into the center of the circle here and say yes. And that's what we're inviting you to here. I'm now going to just scroll down things that are typical of programs like a Facebook community, MP3 audios, of course, the archive that you can access anytime of the 9 programs where you miss one because of a family or professional thing. Also, the bonus items here are quite rich. People share with us that they like to see bonus items with programs like this. So the standard bonus collection with this program includes this 90-minute program with Barbara and Howard Martin with HeartMath, also a 90-minute program with Lynn McTaggart and Barbara, and then a 90-minute program with Nassim and Barbara. Then there's a early registration set of bonus gifts for people that register by here just within a few days, by Monday, November 5th. And that includes this 90-minute program with Barbara and Neil Donald Walsh, Barbara and Greg Braden, and Barbara and Annette Kaiser. So those are part of the early registration bonus. And then, there's another bonus. This is a big one. It's one that we're quite excited about, huh, Barbara? And it's this, we're calling it an event-only bonus. So this is for people who register today or by tomorrow, Saturday, November 3rd. And if you register today or by tomorrow the 3rd, then we're adding this live Inner Circle Leap into Evolution virtual living room gathering with Barbara, where a couple days before the program begins, the program starts here in just a little over a week. And a couple days before the program begins, there's this special program for people that register now or by tomorrow. Leap into Evolution. This is where you come into Barbara's virtual living room. It'll be a live program where you're coming together with others who have also registered. Actually, Barbara, we're just about out of time, so I'm going to go on another. So much more you could say about that, and people will probably ask us questions here when we come on live in a moment. But this program is it's $297, which we're real pleased about. It's a moderate price. Humanities Team is a 501c nonprofit. Barbara's organization, Foundation for Conscious Evolution, also is a nonprofit. Our primary mission is just to have reach and impact all over the world at this critical moment in the Earth's evolution. And we're really pleased to be offering a program with this kind of substance for $297. It has, of course, the normal money-back guarantee. So we invite you to just feel into this and see if you get that inner yes that says that this is something that you should do for yourself, your family, your community, and the world. And Barbara, let me just come over to you for closing thoughts about this very special program. If you want to say something about the leap into your living room. I know you and I are both looking forward to seeing all of you who decide to join with us here shortly when this program begins.
I just would like to say something about the potency of a yes. And I feel that what we're doing here, Steve, is in the direction of life itself. And we are at the growing edge of life itself here. So your yes, I'm excited for my yes to meet your yes and to see what actually together we can create. That's what I feel.
All righty. That sounds good. My yes is meeting your yes. So Barbara and I are a big yes, yes, yes. And it is, I think, as you know, it's Barbara's life work. It's my life work. It's Humanities Team's life work. And I'm guessing, whether you join us or not, it's your life work because this is a conscious viewing audience. So thank you for the role that you're playing. And we wish you Godspeed, whether you come into the program or not. It really takes all of us, coming down on the field, working together, saying yes to create this world and these communities and these homes that are so needed at this time. Thank you for joining us here. We appreciate it. And Barbara and I are now coming over to meet you live for the question and answer period. Thank you.